All right. Welcome to the Evergreen Read Only Reports training session. I think everybody on the call knows me, but just in case there are any new faces that haven't met me yet, my name is Leslie Miska, and I'm the Office of Aging and Disability Services Information Services Manager, and I will be leading today's training session. Next slide, please. Participants have been added to this training session in listener mode, therefore your line is muted. So we do ask that you type your questions into the Q&A using that Q&A icon that's on your Zoom window menu. Depending on the size of your screen, it might be hidden under the three little dots, the ellipses, where you can get some more menu items, but definitely locate that Q&A icon, open that up. You can type questions into that Q&A throughout the presentation. I'm going to try to go through a few slides and a demo. But you can ask questions as we're going, and then we'll have plenty of time together. We should have an hour or so together for me to ask questions and maybe try to dive in a little bit deeper if there are areas that I didn't cover that you'd like to see. So we should be able to get through all of your questions in the time that we have allotted together today. But if for some reason we can't, I'll certainly take all the questions from the Q&A and respond back to those separately. So use that throughout, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please, Miranda. So during today's training session, we're going to cover a few topics: new features in Evergreen, how to use search and what search options are available to you in this role, how to view program management, which is waitlist, and folks that are on the wait list, what notifications are and how you can access those, what queries are and how you can access those. And we'll spend a bit of time in the reports area because you'll have access to run a lot of reports in the system. And then I'll also cover the help features that are available inside of Evergreen, as well as the profile, your staff profile, and some features there that I wanted to call out for you. And then we'll do a little bit related to the person record forms and plans as well. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Prior to listening to the training, hopefully you had a chance to watch the Evergreen microlearning videos. We will cover some of these topics together in some detail today, but some of them we won't cover. So if you haven't had a chance, definitely go out and listen to them at some point. They are all posted on the Evergreen Project website, out on the training page right at the top. There's a hyperlink to each one of them, and they cover these topics that you see here. There's one on search and how to do a search and how the results will get returned. What the dashboards are. There are two different types of dashboards. There's the My Dashboard, which is your user staff dashboard. And then there's also a dashboard associated with every single person that we serve in their person record. And so that microlearning will cover the differences between those and how you can find those. There's also one on the person record itself, which is where we capture all the demographic data related to the person that we serve. So addresses, phone numbers, identifiers, program classification, eligibilities, things like that. That's all under the person record. There's a microlearning about that. There's one also specific to the health information section, which is under the person record itself. And that's where all of the diagnoses, allergies, treatments, end-of-life orders, all those kind of things live. There is one for queries and notifications. We'll actually cover that topic together today in probably the same level of detail that the microlearning has, but you can definitely listen to that if you're interested. There's also one on progress notes, so roles that have the ability to create and or promote My Notes to progress notes. There's a microlearning that tells you a little bit more about that. And there's one related to attachments, which is how you can upload documents against a person record in Evergreen. So highly recommend that you go listen to those if you haven't. If you already have and you just want to listen to them again, they're out there for you to do that as many times as you like. Next slide, please. Before we dive in and do any demoing, I do also want to just call out one of the more important pieces of Evergreen, which is that it's a shared system. So Evergreen has been live since June of 2020 for our Adult Protective Services staff persons and those programs. So there are two distinct sections or sides of Evergreen. There's the Evergreen side, which is also referred to as the person record side, which is where all of our ODES EIS functionality will migrate into. And then there's the adult protective services side of the system, which is where our APS intake supervisors and caseworkers and court information workers have been working since June of 2020. And that's where we capture adult protective services reports. Those two sections of the system are distinct and separate, and they are security access controlled. So individuals who currently work in EIS only will only have access to the Evergreen person record side of Evergreen, whereas APS has access to their APS report side as well as the Evergreen person record side. And it's important to understand this distinction because the Evergreen person record itself, where we capture all the demographics, where we upload attachments, where we see diagnoses and things like that, that is a shared record. So both APS users, public guardianship conservatorships, and assigned case managers access the same person record, have access to view the same, most of the same person record data. There are a couple of sections of the person record that are specific to APS and will be security controlled only for APS to see. They're APS critical alerts and APS additional details. Those two sections will only be available for APS users, but everything else will be available for view to both sets of users. And the sections that are available for view for both, for those roles that have access to edit, they will also be able to edit the same data. So guardianship, conservatorship representatives, and community case managers can both edit an address for a person, or add a contact for a person, or edit a contact for a person, etc. Next slide, please. Some of the benefits of Evergreen, and this is just a short list, there are a lot of benefits to Evergreen. Some of the benefits include the fact that there are more help features and self-service help options, including the ability to reset your own password. So if you forget your password, you can use the reset password function rather than having to reach out to somebody on my team to reset your password, or FEI to reset your password for you. So that's awesome. Also, very exciting, the ability to upload attachments to the person record. So in EIS, we cannot upload any supplemental documentation. You have to just populate the forms and fields of data that exist there. But we know that during DD intake, during person-centered planning process, case management, lots of other processes, there are supplemental forms that we receive that are filled out by the person, their guardian, maybe a care coordinator, or like a health professional that we might want to upload and attach to their person record. And we can now do that in Evergreen, or we'll be able to do that in Evergreen. We also have the ability in Evergreen to print any form that we are in using what's called the global print feature. So those of you that have been using EIS for a long time know that in order to print things in EIS, you have to use a printer friendly. So you have to go and pick how you want to print it, and then it will print in a report type format. Evergreen still does have some report prints. Those are called custom prints. And so certain forms will show a little printer icon, and you can click on that printer icon, and then it will show you different print options that you have. A good example of that is the person-centered plan. It will have a couple of different print options. One where you can print what's called the person PCP print, and that just basically prints the whole PCP form without the comprehensive assessment data that's displayed in that form. And there's also a special PCP print that prints just the BMS 99 questions and answers. So that can be used by the DD waiver manager, or possibly one of you on this team if you need to see just the BMS 99 questions and you don't want the whole plan. However, all forms can be printed as you're seeing them on the screen. So you can navigate into any form under the person record, leave it in view mode, expand all the sections, or expand just a couple of sections if you only want to print a couple of the sections. Use Control and the P keys on your keyboard and it will pop up your printer window and it will print it exactly as you're seeing it. So that's very exciting. Evergreen also has the ability to run role-specific queries, which allow you to see outstanding actionable work tasks or items. Not as relevant to this group since you guys have a read-only access and you're really just going to be using the system to view data and run reports. You're not really going to have outstanding actions per se. But other user roles like community case managers, BI care coordinators, their supervisors, APS staff, they have actionable tasks that they need to perform in the system. And so they will really rely on these queries to let them know what new items have been moved into their queue for action. That being said, you do still have some queries that you can run, and they're queries where you can, run and see like all reportable events that are still in progress, for example. So like reportable events that have been created, but not completed and submitted. So you do have access to some queries to run. And we'll look at those together. You also have the ability to run reports. And in this role, you have the ability to run quite a variety of reports. So again, we'll cover some of those together on this training. And then any that we don't cover in this training, hopefully you'll get to see in a test environment or training environment, or once we go live, you can check them out. And if you have questions, you can certainly ask at that time. Evergreen also has an enhanced person record with centralized data capture. So as I discussed before, the person record is shared so that we're not capturing similar information on multiple person records and then running into the situation where that person data might be out of sync. So there should be one person record for each person that we serve, and the data should be managed within that record by all of the people that have the appropriate access to manage that record. So DD intake and eligibility staff, assigned community case manager, assigned public guardianship representative, assigned state case manager, anybody who might have a role that would allow them to modify data on a person record should all be accessing the same record and modifying that one single record. And the reason that we're capturing all that data at the person record level, so more data than we currently capture in EIS at the person record level, is so that it's all managed and maintained there, and then it can be used to display on forms rather than recapture that data on forms. So again, those of you that have been in EIS for a long time, you know that currently in EIS, when we create a form, for example, like a person-centered plan form or an IST form or a reportable event form, we're often asking you to recapture person demographic type data in each of those forms. And then that can be contradictory. Somebody might make an error when they're keying a date of birth, for example, into one of those forms. They might key the date of birth incorrectly. And so now we've got a date of birth on the EIS person record level. That's one thing, but within their PCP might be a totally different date of birth. So in Evergreen, we're avoiding that by capturing the date of birth at the person record level. And then any forms where we want to have the date of birth displayed, we will show you the date of birth as it's coming from the person record. So hopefully making the folks on this call's lives a lot easier when trying to analyze data. And so when you run reports, it's not going to be giving you multiple person records with different dates of birth and things like that. So that's very, very exciting. And most forms, if not all, I haven't done an inventory, but most forms that get created in Evergreen will display at least one piece of data, whether that be the person's name, their date of birth, their A number, their assigned case manager, their assigned public guardian rep. The list goes on and on. There are different, depending on the form, different data points that are captured in that person record that will be displayed to the user that is populating that form. So again, very exciting that we're able to do that and streamline that process for them too, because then they don't have to recapture all that data. So hopefully saving them some time in the long run. And then the best part about Evergreen, in my opinion, is standardized data capture. So again, those of you that have been in EIS for years know that there's very little field level validation in EIS. So a good example of that is a lot of the date fields in EIS will allow you to enter something that doesn't even resemble a date, or it might even allow you to enter a date that is not even a real date, like it's some ridiculous futuristic date that none of us will ever see in our lifetime, like 31/24 instead of 2024 or something like that, right? Um, so Evergreen has tons of field level validation and required fields. That's the other piece that EIS doesn't have a lot of. It has some, but not a lot. So many forms have very few required fields in EIS. In Evergreen, we tried really hard to ensure that we were forcing the user that's completing the form to provide all of the required data that we need in order to um, serve the person, project, from a reporting perspective, project what the needs might be futuristically, and have better trends and patterns, be able to identify trends and patterns a little bit better. So there are, in every form and module, you will see fields that have a little red asterisk next to the field label. That means that it's required. To save that record. If the field is also required to set a form to the complete or final state, then it will also have like a little yellowish orange bar at the front of the field itself. And that will indicate that it's part of the completion requirements for that form. And so you have to populate it not only in order to save the form in an in progress status, but also to set that form into its final state or completed. And also, all date fields have a date picker, so you don't have to hand key the date yourself. You can actually pop up a little date calendar icon and pick your date, and it will put it in there in the appropriate date format. And forms are also have business rules built in to determine whether it should allow for backdating or future dating, or those types of things. It will also confirm if a field is supposed to be numeric values only. It will only let you enter numbers. It won't let you enter alpha characters and numbers. And again, the list goes on and on. Tons of field level validation, as well as forms have workflows and business rules built in so that people have to follow a certain business process rather than skipping important sections of forms and things like that. And the last benefit that I wanted to share this morning is around the fact that Evergreen is tablet and laptop compatible, or PC compatible. So it may also work on a smaller device than a tablet, like a cell phone, a smartphone, depending on your screen size. But we can't guarantee that you'll be able to, that it will resize properly down to that small of a device, but we can guarantee that it will appropriately resize down to a tablet size. So you can access it from your work laptop, or if you have a work issued tablet, you can access it from that as well. And it does work best in the Chrome browser. So we do recommend the Chrome browser. However, you can use other browsers. It will work in Microsoft Edge just equally as well as Chrome, and possibly other browsers as well. It just hasn't been thoroughly tested in, Firefox, Safari, some of those other browsers. So we strongly encourage Chrome. Next slide, please. All right, so we've made it to the part where I'm actually going to show you some stuff. So let me try. Takes me a little minute here to rearrange some things, but let me try to show you around a little bit. Now, please bear with me. I am using our test environment, so a couple of things can happen here. We could have some slowness. We could also run into some situations that I'm not prepared for because people are in here still playing around, so they may have modified some things, or some of the access and permissions might not be exactly perfect to your production role, but I'm gonna try to talk you through that as we go through. So I'm logging in as if I were a data compliance full read-only. Your role is called full read-only reports role. So it'll take a second here again because we're in the test environment. But once you enter your actual credentials, I'm using a test account. So my person's name, my staff person's name is data compliance. But once you enter your credentials, you'll come to this Evergreen login screen. This is just a generic privacy confidentiality statement, and you're just acknowledging that you're not going to use the data in any way, that you're not supposed to be using the data. So you just simply say acknowledge, and then as data and compliance specialists, you'll just automatically be logged in. Other users, like community provider users and possibly community case managers or BI care coordinators or such, they have another screen in between if they are assigned to multiple locations under an organization. But as a data and compliance user and probably even any of our like management team, you'll likely bypass that intermediary screen. So once you get logged in here, you come to the My Dashboard, which again, dashboards covered under the microlearning. So feel free to listen to those and learn a little bit more about these tiles. I'll talk about them a little bit though here in a minute. Up here across the top is what I refer to as the persistent navigation. It's this white menu navigation bar at the very top of the system. This will be here for you whenever you're logged into the system. No matter what screen you navigate to, this white bar will always be here. That's why I refer to it as the persistent navigation. In that persistent navigation, you have the Evergreen icon here. Clicking on this will always return you to this page. To the right of the Evergreen icon is your search feature. So I want to talk to you a little bit about search. In this role, you have the ability to search under multiple areas. You can search person records, which are the people that we serve. You can search staff member records, which are the people that are system users. You can search locations or organizations. So organizations are the top level agency, and then locations are added to the system under a top level organization. Organizations can be community case management agencies. They can be waiver provider organizations. They can be Office of Aging and Disability Services itself and all of our locations. Our locations are like district offices, or it could be like Disability Rights of Maine, for example, like a contracted entity. So that's where you would find the top level is at the organization. And then if that organization has locations under it, then you would find the subsequent locations by searching locations. So I'll just do a quick search for a staff member. So again, we're in the test environment. So this is all fake data, and a lot of this data is going to look really weird, and it doesn't align with how we do our process or policy because we've had a lot of testers in here just making stuff up. So just bear in mind, but I'm going to do a staff search for the name Jesse, and it's going to return me a result of a system user in this test environment whose name is Jesse and the last name is CCM. And so this is our community case manager test account that we use for testing in this environment. So if I had put in, let's try one that has community. So if I put in community, I get a lot more staff persons that have community either in their first name, last name, job title. So it's searching. This one happens to be organization. So there's an organization with community. So that probably wasn't a great one. Maybe I should do CCM. That might be fewer results. 12. So it's searching. When you put a search term into this search bar, it's searching every field that you see in this results table. So it's saying, is there any that have CCM in the first name, last name, job title, phone number? Of course, that wouldn't have CCM, but organization, supervisor. So it's basically searching all those fields for that term. If you add another term, it is going to use both of those terms. So that works like an and. So it's going to take CCM and liaison, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to search first name, last name, job title, all the fields, but it's only going to return you results that have both of those terms in it. So now I've narrowed it down to 3. You can also use the search history. So if you do a common search, you can click on this little clock icon here, and this will allow you to go to your most recent, I think it's 20 searches. And then you can just literally, oh, I guess my VPN decided it's done for right now. Um, you can literally just click on and re-execute a search that you might do frequently. Or if you want to get even more granular than what you can do in this keyword search, you're trying all your combinations and you're like, it's still not returning me the results I'm looking for. You can use this magnifying glass with the plus sign, and this will pop up the advanced search. So right now I'm under staff member. So this is my advanced search options for the staff member search. I can do based on first name, last name, job title, organization, primary phone, supervisor, or status, active or inactive. You can fill out one or more of these and it will return you results. So if I wanted to do just staff members with the last name CCM, rather than it searching all those fields, I can do this and I can hit search. And now it's giving me just staff persons that have CCM in the last name field. So again, you can search in all those ways. So that's for staff member. If you wanted to search for locations, for example, you'd switch to the little location icon, and then I'm gonna do a search for CCM under locations. This is returning me a location that we have set up in our test environment. That's our community case management location called CCM Works. Again, same thing. It will retain your search history under this area. So you can see there's my location search. I can just re-execute that if I want to, or I can use the advanced search in here. And you can see this advanced search is different. It only allows me to search on status, active or inactive, NPI +3, provider ID, or vendor code. So the advanced search in here is got different options for me. And then similarly, organizations. So you can also do a search for, I want to show you in here, agency. I think that one works. Yeah. So again, there are 3 organization records in our test environment that have agency somewhere in them. So a couple of them have it in the short name. All 3 of them have it in the full name. So once you've done your search and you see the result that you want, then you can click into it. So I'm going to click into this CCM agency and waiver provider and show you how the organization record is organized in here. Noelle has a question. I'm actually going to answer that right now, Noelle, while we're in here. So Noelle's question is, will test items appear in actual reports? Great question, Noelle. So we've attempted to not migrate test records into the production environment. However, we haven't been 100% successful. So some of those records might make it into Evergreen. And so you may end up seeing some test records from EIS, not from this test environment here, but from our EIS data, because we know we use EIS for like testing. Some of those records have made it into Evergreen, so they may show up on reports in there. If that's the case, definitely let our team know and we can try to get those cleaned up so that hopefully they are not showing up on reports anymore for you. But we did try, but there are so many test records in the EIS data that's migrating that I think we've missed some of them. And now that we're live in production over there, I know like the Terry Duck record still exists and people still use it in that environment. So we could try to delete that record, but I also recognize that we don't have like a test or a training environment that's available in perpetuity for people. So it is almost better that they don't modify production data when they need to test something out and that we have maybe that one test record in there. But in general, we should not be creating test records in our production environment or adding test data to a production environment. And we tried with migration to eliminate those, but I don't think we've gotten them all. And I know Terry Duck exists in Evergreen production right now. So here is an organization profile. So once you've done your search and you've navigated to your organization, you're going to get your organization banner up here at the top. So this is the name of this test organization, CCM Agency and Waiver Provider. And this is their, what we refer to as their short name. This will be the name from EIS. This name here, the full name, comes from MIMS. So again, in this environment, we typed them all in, but in production, the full name will come off of their MIMS organization if we've created the organization off MIMS, like it's a waiver or a community case management agency. And then their NPI, or once we get to the location level, their NPI +3, that will also come from MIMS. So we'll be consuming the data from MIMS so that some of this information stays in sync with MIMS rather than us rekeying it and maybe, again, making mistakes and that kind of thing. And then it will tell you whether it's active or inactive. Your role won't have the ability to activate or inactivate, but the OATS admin role and actually just the OATS admin role, just folks on my team will have the ability to activate or inactivate. So once you're inside of there, again, your primary navigation is down the left side. Your profile is here. So this is going to be just the generic information about this agency. Active, their MIMS status. Again, we're not connected to MIMS in this test environment. So some of these fields aren't populated, but in production, it will tell you whether they're active in MIMS or not. Short name, again, is going to come from EIS. Full name is going to come from MIMS. If they have a doing business as name, that can be populated here. If they have a website URL, that can be populated here. I don't believe any of those are migrating in on, well, I should take that back. If they have, I think if they have a website URL and their MIMS data, that will come in. And I don't think we capture that in EIS. So I think a lot of these will be blank when we go live in production, but we can certainly add them as we get in there. If they're a residential provider and they have beds and bed counts, Evergreen does capture that data. It will be up to the organization or location level administrator to keep that information up to date. So take that with a grain of salt because they may or may not keep it up to date. But those individuals who have that role have the ability at the location level to enter total bed count and available bed count and keep that up to date regularly. And that will all roll up. So it'll take all of the location level data and aggregate it and roll it up to a total bed count capacity and available bed count at the organization level here, which is what you're seeing. Any identifiers that are added. So again, if we consume from MIMS, it will have their NPI at the organization level and it will tell you the effective date range. So this one in this example has an effective start date of 3/1/22 and there's no end date. So like in MIMS, if there's no end date, it will say no end date. But if there isn't future end date in MIMS, it will show you what the future end date is. And then there's ability to capture a note on there. Addresses. So addresses might come from different places. They might be direct entered from here in Evergreen. They might have migrated over from EIS. They might have migrated in from MIMS. They might have even migrated when we did release 2 from NAPSIS. So you can tell where it came from based on this source here. So like these were keyed through the UI here in Evergreen, but when you get into production, you might see a different source. If you see a source of like MIMS, for example, in production, that address is not editable. It's going to be read-only so that we can always see what MIMS has for that address. But if we want an editable copy of a record, we can direct enter it in Evergreen and then keep it up to date in here. And so again, organization, location administrators will have the ability to keep their own profiles up to date in here. Phone numbers, same deal. You can have a office phone number, a mobile phone number. There are different types of phone numbers that can be added. One phone number can be indicated as the primary phone number. Not more than one can be indicated as primary under that type. Points of contact can also be added here and kept up to date, again, by that organ location administrator. So again, some weird looking data, but it would normally be like a billing contact or maybe a program manager if it's like a residential provider or a community provider, or it might have like their CEO listed here or president or something like that. So they can add multiple points of contact and keep that up to date. Service areas is not something that will typically be used by us, but all of ours will migrate in with a service area of Maine. And then if an agency, like a community agency, only provide services in certain community counties, they can keep that up to date as well. And again, this will be at the managed at the location level and aggregate up to the organization level. So each location might have different areas that they offer services in, and at the organization level, you'd see like an aggregate of that. Under the organization profile, you can also see all the locations that are associated with this organization. And it will give you, again, their full name, their NPI+3 address, their primary contact, type, and who that is, and that person's phone number. You can do searches in here. Again, it works the same way as your other search. If you put one keyword, it's going to search across all these fields. If you put multiple, it will take that as an and it will search across all these fields. You have the ability to show up to 100 items at a time on the screen, and then you have your paging buttons here. All list pages work that same way. And then also shows you all the staff members associated with all of the locations under this organization. So again, you can search if you want to see what locations that individual is assigned to. You can use this little caret menu to the right of the staff record, and it will show you that information that you see up here, but also some additional information such as what locations they're assigned to and what roles they have under that location, each location or their locations. Then you can also see supported programs. This is main care waiver programs. So section, again, test environment. This has everything. Some agencies will offer at the organization level, offer services across all of our waiver programs. Some won't. Some will be just DD or some will be just BI. And so you'd only see section 18 or section 21, 29, et cetera. There's also the ability to upload attachments specific to the organization. So like our quality assurance team might use this area to work, and or the organization themselves might use this area when they're working on like a corrective action planning or something like that. They might have like a plan that they want to upload against their organization or their location level. And similarly, forms can be conducted over here as well. So at some point, we may get to doing the QA corrective action planning right in this system. That's currently being done, I think, in SharePoint. But futuristically, we might start doing that in this system at some point, and then that's where those forms would be done against either the organization or the location itself. That way, it's not visible to all users of the system because not all users of the system have the ability to search organizations and locations. And it's related to the organization and location, not the person that we're serving. So that's the organization arrangement. Let me Kirk has a couple of questions. Have the NPI+3 values. Oh, sorry, I skipped Jess. Jess has a question. Is there a list of all the test records from EIS? I wish there was, Jess. There is not a list of all the test records from EIS. We've done our best to try to identify those and give that to Pranitha so that when we sent the data, we were filtering them out. But unfortunately, there is not a list because there are a lot of people over time who have had the ability to add those. Kirk asks, have the NPI+3 values been updated using the EconSys database from the HCBS work? So the NPI+3 values, again, this is a test environment, so this is not from anywhere, but in production, they will come off of MINS. So if they have not been updated in MIMS, they will not be reflected as updated in Evergreen. So if there's some work that's being done and NPI +3 values need to be updated, we should find a way to get those updated in the MIMS data so that they display correctly in Evergreen. Kirk also asks, will we be able to find folks based on their section of coverage? Great question, Kirk. I off the top of my head, like I think maybe you're talking about person records. So there is a report I think that would meet this needs. When we get to the reports section, I'll try to cover reports that report that you can run based on persons under the section of service that they're receiving. So we'll cover that in just a couple minutes, hopefully. I'm going to go back out here to the Evergreen landing page so I can just see that I can click that icon and it brings me right back out here. It drives me nuts that keeps moving down. I don't know why it does that, but anyway, I want to just tell you a little bit more about the menu items here before we dive into like a person record as well. So beyond the search icons that we've covered, you also have well, let's talk about these tiles just quickly. So you have the, as the full read-only report role, you have these 3 dashboard tiles. This one on the far left is the alerts tile. This is managed by our vendor, FEI Systems, and it will have this orange background, and it will have things like planned system downtime, scheduled maintenance that's going to be occurring, maybe an office closure, important information that all system users will need to see. All system users have this tile. This one in the middle is the messages feature. It's similar to email. You can use it just like email, but it's all contained within the system. So you can create a new message, search for another system user. You can use to CC, BCC. You can provide a subject message. It's got this little WYSIWYG editor, so you can do all kinds of things: bold, italics, highlight, bulleted lists, links. You can add links, images, etc. You can even upload a file if you want to it, and then you can send it, save it as a draft, etc. And that will all queue up in your messages section of the system. So again, this is going to look like email to you. You're going to have an inbox. You can see what you've sent. You can go to your drafts. You can go to your deleted. You can archive stuff. You can add new messages from here. You can search in here, all kinds of crazy stuff, just like email. And you'll always be able to access that, even if you're not on your dashboard, using this messages icon in your persistent navigation. Similarly, you have this tile here, which is called My Notes. This is like sticky notes. So if you've ever used that in like one of your smartphone devices, tablets, that kind of thing, or a notepad on your laptop, it's similar to that. So you can just quickly capture a note title and a note description. And when you save it, it will show you your recent most 5, I think, over here. You can go like find the note from this tile on your dashboard, or you can add new notes even if you're not on your dashboard from this icon always. So anywhere you are in the system, no matter what's behind here, it will just pop up this overlay. You can grab a note title and comment and save that, and then it will go into your My Profile, which you can also get there from here. So again, I'm logged in as data compliance. That's my test account. And this is my profile as the system user. And then on my left navigation over here, I have my notes. And so you can see these are the notes that have been created in this test account here. And you can view those, or with your role, if you have the ability, which it doesn't appear that this role does, or it might just be the test environment. But if you had the ability, you would have a promote option here that it can be promoted to like a general progress note against a person record. So like community case managers can do that. You can also add notes right from within here as well. And aside from search, My Notes, messages, you also have these icons here. So I'm not going to go into this today on the training just because of the time that we have, but this contact form is, again, available in the persistent navigation and is intended to be used by like admin staff or intake and eligibility staff so that they can capture like DD or BI referrals before a person record exists. So we might receive a call from a private guardianship representative saying, I'd like to get my in my ward assessed for developmental disability services. So whoever takes that call, whether that be a DD intake and eligibility coordinator or a supervisor or even maybe an office staff, they might take the call initially. They would go into this contact form. They'd be able to create a contact form, select DD referral, and populate the information. And then that contact form can be completed, and we can get the person's agreement to go through the assessment process before we create the person record in the system. So contact form will be used for DD referrals, BI referrals. It's also used by APS, but only for calls that are not APS related. So like basically wrong number calls. So APS intake tracks all of their phone calls. And if it's not an actual APS report, they track it under contact form. So they'll say like wrong number, basically, or referred to DLRS or something like that. And it has just very little information in there. This icon here, program management, which I will click into really quick here for you. This takes you to the wait list area. So again, you don't have access to like edit things in here, but you can view things in here. So when you click on program management, it takes you to offer group. So you can see by program, whether it's section 18, 21, 29, you can page through all of them. You can do a keyword search. You can, all list pages, all column headers will sort ascending and then descending if you click it again. So you can see open, you can see who created them, the capacity, all that stuff. And then you can actually, oh, there's nothing in the drawer on this one, sorry. You can actually like click into one of these and it will bring you to that offer group. So you can see again what you saw on the list page there. And then you can see the, oh, I didn't pick one that has anything, but you can also see the people that were included under that offer group. So let me actually see if I can find one that has some test data in it. Here's one. So this offer group had 5 slots that were available and 1 person was made an offer. So in this test environment, that was Jane Smith. So then you can also click on Jane Smith to see her wait list information and that the status was offer made. You can go see the workflow history for that. So, you know, first it was created and then it was in progress. You can see how many days it was in progress. You can see when the offer was made. You can see down here if any letters have been sent to her related to this. So the DD waiver manager staff will send letters if they haven't heard back and that kind of stuff. So you can see all that stuff in there. Not going to spend a lot of time in there today, but you do have access to view that. So then I do have a question from Chelsea. I just want to read it and see if it's relevant before we move too far on here. Who is responsible for entering the staff information for an agency? How accurate and updated should we expect that information to be? Yeah, so the staff information is only as accurate as the agency keeps us up to date. So what I mean by that is in order for a staff person to be set up in the system, the organization would need to reach out to the information services team, my team, to request the new user account. So people can't be added to the system until a new user request has come in, the same way that it works with EIS. And it will be a similar form that they have to fill out, and it has the little confidentiality statement and everything. And so then we'll create that new user account. And then like community case management agencies and BI care coordinator agencies, they'll still have the same level of access that they have in EIS, so that like they can manage their own case manager assignments within their location, not other organizations or locations, but they can like assign their community case managers to person records and then unassign or reassign as they need to shift caseloads within their location. Waiver providers, though, they don't have any sort of access like that. They'll just be set up. So like they might be set up as a reportable events provider only. So we might get a request from Goodwill to set up a staff person as a reportable event user. And then that user will set it up and they'll have the ability to access any persons that have an active location assignment to a whatever location that staff person has been set up under. And so they could add reportable events to that person record ongoing whenever they need to. But if that staff person separates from that location, like they leave voluntarily or they're terminated, we would have no idea, Evergreen would have no idea that that person no longer works at that agency. So it would be up to that organization to tell us that that person has been terminated so that we can inactivate that account. So it's going to be hopefully not as bad as it was in EIS, but there will still be active staff persons in the system that maybe shouldn't be active. The other good news is that the explicit relationships, so like community case manager assignments, for example, or BI care coordinator assignments, for example, those will get like auto terminated by the system, for example. So like when, well, and waiver providers too, to some extent. So let's take this example. So when a person that we're serving has a person-centered plan that has they have their assigned case manager, their case manager creates the person-centered plan, and the plan has a waiver service for agency group home and community supports. And they've selected their providers. They've gone through the provider selection process and they've selected their providers. And then those providers will get auto assigned by the system to have access to that person record. They'll get that location will get auto assigned to the person record so that they now have access to that person record to serve that person. But then during the person-centered planning process, if that person says, I don't want to receive my services from this organization anymore, I want to select this other provider organization, the community case manager would change the provider on that waiver service in the PCP. And when they set the plan to complete, it will unassign the provider that's been removed, and it will now assign the provider that was added. So some of that will be better than EIS because through the person-centered planning process, waiver providers will be assigned and unassigned based on what is applied to the PCP by the community case manager or the BI care coordinator. However, if that location itself has, staff members that they've terminated or whatever, we would not know that. But if the location becomes inactive in MIMS, so it's like a location that gets unenrolled, then their MIMS enrollment will come across with an end date that's today or in the past, and then their location status will update to inactive automatically. So better, still not always going to be 100% because we do rely on end users to some extent. So notifications, let's talk about notifications. So, and again, sorry, test environment. So you're going to see a lot of crazy stuff in here, but, as a full read-only, data and compliance role, you guys will receive a notification for every reportable event that's been entered and is still in an in-progress status more than 24 hours later. So if like somebody created a reportable event, but they didn't submit it and it's just sitting out there and it's been there for more than 24 hours, the system will trigger a notification saying, hey, there's a reportable event out there that's still in progress. And it will keep doing that every day until that reportable event is completed, submitted, or closed. because it could have been created in error and it needs to be closed out or whatever. Also, you'll receive reportable notification every time a reportable event has been set to complete. So it's been submitted and it's been set to complete, but it's been at least 5 calendar days and there's still sorry, and it's been it's 5 days until the provider follow-up is due. So I think those are due in 30 days. So it would be 25 calendar days from when it was set to complete. And there's still no follow-up on the RE, then it will trigger a notification saying there's a reportable event out there, and it's coming due for its provider follow-up in 5 days, and it still doesn't have one. Also, there's a specific death and mortality reviewer role in the system. So I think Rhonda is still doing the death and mortality review stuff. So Rhonda will also get the death and mortality review role as well. So she'll get a dual role. And under her death and mortality reviewer role, she will also get notifications when reportable event with the incident category death has been submitted. So she'll see those come across, and then she'll also receive a notification when the reportable event with category of death is has been in there for 5 business days. So it was created 5 business days ago, and there's no death and mortality review status yet. So like the death and mortality form status hasn't been set to complete yet. And she will also receive reportable event when the category notification about reportable event categories with death when it's been 9 business days after creation and that still hasn't been set to complete. So there's like a reminder, hey, because I think those have to be completed in 10 days. There's like a reminder at 5 days, hey, this reportable event was submitted with death, but there's still no death and mortality review form completed. 5 days in, and then 1 day before it's supposed to be due, she'll get another notification if it still hasn't been completed. You will also receive notifications for any missing person forms that you created yourself. So you have the ability under this role to create missing person forms. I'm not sure whether you ever have to do that, but you do have that ability. If you create a missing person form, the system notifies the creator every 24 hours to submit an updated status until that form has been completed. So if you created one, you would also receive notifications about that. Noelle, great question, Noelle. I actually was gonna share this with you when I get to the My Profile, but I'll answer it right now and then I'll show you where it is when we get there. So Noelle is asking, are notifications contained in Evergreen or do they push to state of Maine email addresses? As a system user, under the My Profile section of the system, you do have the ability to select a setting to send you an email to your state of Maine email address when you have an Evergreen notification waiting for you. So for individuals like yourselves who aren't in the system all the time, you may want to do that so that it will tell you, hey, you have a notification in Evergreen. Now, the notification that you're going to get to your email is extremely generic. It's basically just going to say you have a notification in Evergreen and you need to log in. And that's for security and privacy reasons. We don't want to send person data, form level data, any of that stuff outside the system, but it's just going to alert you that you should log in and go to your notifications. So we'll definitely show you that when we get over there. So that's how notifications work. So again, they come in bolded. You can click on it. It will take you to whatever it was notifying you about. So that reportable event, that missing person form, you can use your back button to get back to where you came from. You can select a record, and if it's a group notification, so if it's set up to send to like all individuals who are seeing that, so like this one is a group notification, so it's telling me that the reportable event was created over 24 hours ago, and it's set up as a group notification. So if I want to say, oh, I'm going to accept that and take care of that, I can check this, use this accept, and it will apply my name to the accepted by. It's taking a minute because my test environment is super slow, but it would put data and compliance here under accepted by. I can also mark it as read, or once I've read it, If I want it to come back bolded, I can mark it as unread and it will rebold it for me. And I can also archive. Well, it looks like for some reason the test environment didn't like that this morning, but it worked yesterday. Anyway, group notifications will allow you to do that and accept those. You also have the search bar here so you can filter down. So moving on to queries. So notifications are similar to EIS ticklers. That's what you can equate notifications to. Queries are different from notifications in the sense that they are kind of more like reports, but they are something that you can come to. You can sometimes, depending on the query, it will allow you to set filters, and then you can run it and it will return results in the system that match your filters or the built-in filters for that query to let you know what are outstanding and actionable items. Again, as the data and compliance users and management users, you're not going to have a lot. You have a few here. We'll go through all of these together. You have 4. Community case managers have like 20 or 30 of these. My team has all of them. There's like, I don't know, 50 or 60 of them. So essentially you want to, when you click on queries, again, from your persistent navigation, so anywhere in the system you can get to queries, you want to use this little filter icon in the upper right-hand corner, upside down pyramid, also sometimes referred to as a hamburger. You click that, it will open up and show you what queries you can run. To run a query, you want to click on the title, and then it will populate your filter criteria over here, if there are any, for you to modify. So in this case, I'm trying to run the reportable event in progress to see what report, like just get a list of all the reportable events that are in the system that are in an in progress state right now. It defaults to, you can see it defaults to the created by as me. So it's, if I run the query right now without changing this, it's only going to give me reportable events that I created and didn't submit. So as a data and compliance specialist, you'll likely, you may have to submit reportable events, but you likely won't submit a lot of reportable events. You're going to actually want to see reportable events that were submitted by other people and they're just sitting out there incomplete. So you want to delete that default if you want to see all of it and then hit run query. And then it will return you all of the reportable events in the system that were created over 24 hours ago and still haven't been submitted. And it's going to give you these columns of data: person ID, person name, report ID, incident start date, incident categories. So if there's more than one, they're comma separated in here. Who created it, when it was completed, if it was completed, which in this case, that's weird because these aren't completed. This should say date submitted. I think that might be a typo right there. And then days since submitted. These should be submitted. You can see there are 242 in our test environment. You can page through, you can show up to 100 results here. You can navigate to a particular record by just simply clicking on this and it will navigate you there. And you can review it, or you can go back to where you came from. And you also have the ability to export your results. So you can use this export feature and it will download an Excel version of the data that's in this table. And then that way you can further filter, sort, do whatever analysis you need to with it. So your team will probably use this export results a lot with these queries and reports so that you can slice and dice however you need to. Noelle is asking, is the same individual able to create more than one record for the same event? I ask because if a report is showing up as unsubmitted, would that be because they submitted a different form? Yeah, there's nothing in the system. So users that have the ability to submit reportable events, they can submit as many reportable events as they need to under a person record at any time. So they may have created a reportable event, stepped away from their computer, forgot that they created a reportable event, and then create the same one again and submit that one, and then have left that one over there. However, the system is also going to notify them. So whoever has the ability to enter a reportable event, if you enter a reportable event and you don't submit it within 24 hours, you're going to start receiving a notification every day telling you that you have a reportable event out there that you haven't submitted. It's also going to notify their supervisor. So even if that person themselves is not taking care of it, their supervisor is going to start getting notified. They'll probably get annoyed and say, hey, deal with this. So the person should then go back and either complete that if it truly needed to be submitted. It was the first reportable event, they hadn't submitted it, or close it out, stating that it was added in error. So they can use the close feature and say added an error, and then it will stop notifying you that it's out there and it'll stop showing up on this query. So that's this reportable events in progress query. There's also queries for the lost or missing person forms. Again, you guys may or may not need to use these very frequently, but you do have access to them. So again, for the in progress one, it's going to default to you. So it would only, if I run it, it would only show me ones that I created. I don't even know if there's test data for all of these. Oh, yep, there are. So like I removed that default criteria there, and it's giving me all of the lost or missing person forms that were created in the system and never set to complete. So looks like our testers were busy. There's 21 of these out here that we never set to complete. Same deal. You're going to get person ID, form ID, person name, date of birth, status, guardianship type. So if they have public, assigned public guardian rep, it would say public. If they have a private guardian on their person record, it would say private, and if they have none, it's none. Last seen on date, type of risk, who has been notified. I think this can be comma separated if there are multiple values. Yeah, so law enforcement, crisis, provider, guardian, hospital. Last modified date, last modified by, created by. Again, you can navigate into any one of these records just simply by clicking on it. You can view the data that's in there, maybe what completion requirements are missing, status, etc. Or you can go back. You can export the results just like you can with any of your queries and slice and dice however you want. This will also just take you again to that record. So you can click, or you can use this open record, whichever you prefer. You also have a second query for lost or missing persons. So not just like ones that are in progress, but ones that are pending disposition. So in this case, there are no filters. You just run the query, and it will tell you all of the ones that are pending disposition. So let's look at one of these. So you can see what that means is all of the completion requirements have been met. So all the fields in the form have been met. And so now it's really just a matter of setting the status to complete. So if the person has been found, so like see here, it says date found 9/21/23. The creator of this form should have set this to complete, but they didn't. So that's what that report is showing you. Any that should have been set to complete or closed. I'm on the wrong. So that's those three. And then the only other one that you have access to here is the program management. So this will tell you, this one has lots of filters. So this is a good one to look at. So in order to run this query, you have to provide filters in program, category, or query type. These are optional. These other filters are optional. So you can add a person ID if you have that, or first or last name, or main care number, or you can just do a date range search if you want, but you have to narrow it down. So you have to say, I either want 21 or 29. And let me see, I think I had found one that had a good example here. We'll use offer group. There's just not a lot of data in the system. And then people who need 6 months. So I'm looking for main care section 21 individuals who have been added to an offer group, and they need a 6-month withdrawal by certified letter because they just are not responsive. So I'm just going to add those 3 and hit run query, and then it gives me results. So then it tells me that Carrot Vegetable Test One, Cohen Smith, and Jane Smith all were made offers more than 6 months ago, and they have not been responsive. So we need to send them a termination for their offer. Again, same deal. Person ID, first name, last name, main care number, program category, letter type, letter due, mailing address, and you can export these results. So, and then if you wanted to rerun this, so it's telling me what I had populated for my filter criteria up here. So this is the query that I'm on. These were the criteria that I selected. If I want to modify that and rerun it, I can do that. So I could say, oh, I actually want to see pending offers with people who needed a 6-month termination certified letter. And then it will return me the results for that instead. So again, that's how queries work. They are typically, again, outstanding actionable items. In this case, the only ones that are truly actionable for you really would be around reportable events or lost or missing persons. I don't think your team sends the program management letters. I think that's the waiver managers that handle that. But you can see that by running the query. So now let's get to reports, because that's the one I know you guys are really interested in. And I'm gonna preface it with the test environment has access to some reports that you won't have in production. So I apologize. You're gonna see some things in here that you won't have in production. And if we are able to get you into this environment so you can test around with some of these yourselves, same deal, you will see some stuff that you won't have in production. But I'm gonna cover a few of the ones that you will have in production that I think you will want to use the most and that will be pretty relevant to you. And then we'll try to get you set up. I don't believe, Noelle, you or many people on your team have been given access to our UAT environment yet. We've been trying to get people set up in our training environment. We've been struggling with some of those logins because they're shared credentials. I may work with Nancy and Udaya after this session to just see if we, since your team's pretty small, if we can just get you guys set up in our UAT environment with this role so you can play around in here instead. But just keep in mind again that this is the test environment. There's some fixes to bugs and things that are not in here. They've just been fixed in our pre-production environment that we've been working out of, getting ready for the deploy. And you might have access to some things in here that you won't have access to in production, but at least it will let you get in and start playing around a little bit. So today I want to run for you the PA utilization, the list of clients being served, which I think will get to the question that Kirk had asked, and the all completed REs. That said, you will have access to all of the ones that you're seeing on the screen here in production. So you'll have PA utilization, list of clients being served, program management history, all completed reportable events, annual PCP reassessment, and all of these KPIs. So these CMS KPI ones, they're a little buggy in this system. When you get in, you can test around. They're a little bit buggy. So there may be some issues with them, but these were all built, all the ones that are under this category of CMS KPI, these were built because I have to report to CMS on the outcomes of this project. But we built them with the intention that your team could use the data for other CMS reporting that you might have or other internal reporting that you might have. So we built them to be broader than what my need is so that I can filter down to what I need to send to CMS, but hopefully you can make use of some of these as well. And I can share with this group as well separately, Noelle, the description of these, what each of these are, so that you can understand them a little bit better. I'm not going to go through them today because they are quite complicated, but I'll send you that document and the team can review it. And if we need to have a separate session later, like post deploy, to discuss them or anything like that, we can certainly set that up. But these ones you'll use a lot, the ones that I'm going to go through. So even though it's called PA utilization report, this report is going to give you access to like PA data in general, like all PA data in general. So I'm sorry, this is probably going to time out for me. I think every time in the test environment. So if you get in here, I think it's going to give me an error because it's the first time I'm coming to reports, but then I'll just back out and I'll do it again and it will work in the test environment. I don't know why that happens. So we're going to have to let it do its thing. if it wants to. Apparently Monday is tough for the test environment. Come on, test environment. I want to run some reports. Well, while we're waiting, I can show you this little help icon. There we go. There we go. Let's try that again. You know you want to work for me. I'm sure it's a lot faster the second time. I'm giving up on this environment. Oh, I don't know what I have to do on the other one. Let me try that one. This is why I like to have screenshots to show you, but I didn't pull any screenshots for these reports. Apologies. Well, let's come back to reports later. Let's talk about the help center and the my staff profile, and then we'll try to circle back to it. Oh, there we go. All right. So I was going to start with PA utilization, but since we're on this list of clients being served, let's go with that one. So when you click on a report, it should open up much more quickly than this in production and not error for you the first time. And it's going to bring you to the parameter input screen. So from here, you can, and each report will have different filter criteria or parameters. Same way that queries work though, if there's a required field, then it will have a red asterisk and or a yellow bar here. So we have to put a date. So this is going to be like point in time clients that were being served on that date under what program. So in this example, I'm going to use December 1st of 2023 as my example, just because I ran this one before this and there was data there. And I'm going to leave the other defaults here. So you can modify them, but some will default and some won't for you. So this one is defaulting to all programs, 13, 21, 29, 18, 102, and records clients that don't even have a classification. And it's also defaulting to all locations. And then under this one, I'm going to select guardianship. I'm going to select all, whether they have public or not. So, and then to see the report, you click preview. This will run the report and return your results to you. And it will look like a report in here, and it will show you again your criteria that you entered up here, the search criteria that you entered, and then it will give you the table format, and it will give you all of your results here in this table. And sometimes there'll be more than one page, and you can page through using these page buttons, or go all the way to the end with this last page button if you want. And you can see in this list of clients being served, it gives you the Evergreen person ID, their first name, last name, date of birth, main care number, program or programs that they were classified on that date, active prior authorizations if they had them, yes or no, who their assigned staff were. So there's multiple columns of assigned staff. So there can be more than one explicit relationship. So in this case, this person had a community case manager of Jesse CCM and a DD state case manager of Mark state case manager. So it tells you the first explicit assignment, that person's name, their location, then the second staff assignment, their name, location, and then a third. So it will do up to 3 explicit relationships. And then sorry, 4. Oh, 5. JK, I'm lying to you. We'll go all up to 5. And then it will also have whether they were under public guardianship, yes or no. And if they were, yes, then it would give you their assigned public guardianship representative or representatives at that time as well. And you can export reports in different formats. So it's up to you. You can export as a PDF, Excel, or Word. You'll likely always export as Excel. That's what I do. So that you can then further slice and dice this data. You can also re-show your parameters and refilter and hit preview again to rerun it. You can also print what you're seeing on the screen. If you don't want to export, you can just go straight to print using this print icon. I've not tried that, so I don't know how well that prints. Good question, Noel. How far back in time can you go? Yeah, that's a great question. I believe a lot of these reports will may only go back to Evergreen day one, or certain reports may only go back to Evergreen day one. So it might only be looking at Evergreen created data. Some reports will go back and look at data that was migrated into the UI. So reports are most data that's getting migrated into the system is 2 years worth of data into the UI. So you might be able to pull reports and see data from as far as 2 years back in EIS, but likely most reports are just going to start showing you new data captured in Evergreen moving forward. So if you need historic data until we get further down in in Evergreen, you'll just need to submit a data request to our team for that data to the information services unit until we've been in the system for a little bit longer. So you'll still use the odesdata.dhhs@maine.gov email address to request any data that you're not seeing on these reports. So even if the report does show the data that's migrated, and if you needed more than 2 years worth, then you'd still use that odesdata.dhhs@maine.gov email address to ask for whatever data you need that's older than 2 years. So that's the list of clients being served. And again, it's a point in time because we know that changes, right? So it's one day. So on December 1st, this is all the people that were under Section 18. This is all the people that were under Section 21, 29, etc. Let's see if we can run one of these other ones. Let's try all completed reportable events. Perfect. So if you want to see reportable event data, you can come in here. It's going to default to all statuses. So reportable events that were created and closed. So closed, again, usually means that it was done in error or there's some reason that reportable event was never submitted or completed. Acknowledged, which means that it was completed or submitted and it was reviewed by the community case manager and the community case manager confirmed their review. That's what acknowledged means. Completed, meaning it was completed and submitted, or in progress, meaning it was created, but it was never set to complete. It was never submitted. So you can do one or the other. I'm just gonna, for the purposes of this, I'm just gonna use all the defaults that are here. So I'm gonna show you what's in the test system. It defaults for you to the current date, current month date range. So we're in January, so it's defaulting for me to January 1st of this calendar year to January 31st of this calendar year, but you can update that to whatever date range you want. And then again, you just click preview and it's going to give you the results that are in the system. And in this case, you can actually navigate to the reportable event. So you can run this report and you can navigate to the person record using this hyperlink, or you can navigate to the reportable event form itself using this hyperlink. But in the report, you can see the person identifier, first name, last name, their date of birth, their main care number, their reportable event form ID, the title of the reportable event, the start date, end date, incident location, frequency of occurrence, category. So this will again be comma separated if more than one category was selected, who created the reportable event, when it was, who last modified it, if the reporter's first name and last name, the reporter's location, the current status. So because I've done multiple statuses here, I've got some that are in progress, some that are completed. the state that who transitioned it to this state. So in this case, this is in progress. So Jesse CCM is the one that transitioned this reportable event into current status, or current state. In this case here, John CCM supervisor transitioned this to completed. And then the date that it was put into this date and timestamp that it was put into this current state. So in this example, I just did want to navigate you through so you could see how this works. So I'm going to navigate to Brad Pitt, his record, clicking on that link. So it's taking me right to Brad F. Pitt tests person record. So from here, I can access anything I wanted to in the person record. But if I want to go back and navigate to that specific reportable event, I can click on this link and it will navigate me directly into that reportable event. And so then from here, I can expand all, see the reportable event information. You can see here, it's still in progress and there's literally no fields filled out. So, you know, maybe the person needed to close this out. You don't have that ability, but they have the ability here. They'd have like a complete or close status option. You can also see the provider follow-up if one's been added to the reportable event from here. So yeah, and same way that the list of clients being served work, you can also export, change your filters, rerun it however you want. Let's try this PA utilization one again, see if it'll work. Yay. All right, so PA utilization, they're all the filters are required, but it defaults for you. It defaults all of them for you to, again, the month that you're in. So it's going to give you a date range of the month that you're in, but you can change that if you want. It's also going to give you all decisions, but you can also change this if you want. So this is going to tell me all PAs that are approved, all PAs that were canceled by the resource coordinator. Approved means approved by the resource coordinator or care monitor, canceled by the resource coordinator or care monitor. So cancel is used if they set a decision on a PA and then want to cancel that decision same day, like before the PA transmittal file is picked up by MIMS. And then deny if the resource coordinator or care monitor denied it, or null, meaning that they haven't gotten around to completing their review yet. So it's a PA that's requiring their review. Or if they've reviewed it, but they've requested clarification from the community case manager or care coordinator before they set their decision. So I'm just going to default to all. Again, you can also filter on MIMS outcome. So once it has been approved and sent to MIMS for processing, MIMS will return a response. So if it's been in that process, it will have a MIMS outcome, and that MIMS outcome could be accepted, meaning MIMS processed it just fine, or errored. MIMS might error it for some reason, or if it's hasn't been submitted yet, then that would be null. And then similarly program. So again, all of our different sections of program and or there might be something that was null. There shouldn't be, but it's in there just in case. So I'm going to use the defaults, preview what's here. So this one again works the same way as reportable events. So you can like navigate to a person record, or you can navigate directly to that PA service line from this authorization number. So tells me again what my search criteria are. I can see the Evergreen person ID, first name, last name, main care number, the assigned case manager program that they were classified on, the Evergreen form ID, and then this. So PAs in Evergreen are a little bit different than PAs in EIS. So in EIS, a PA is a single line. And depending on the service, when it gets sent to MIMS and authorized by MIMS, it gets broken into sometimes multiple lines. So there's the concept of what's called a single or an expanded PA. Single PA, again, will have a date range, January 1st of 2024 to December 31st of 2024, and it will have units that can be used anytime within that date range. Or an expanded PA might be something like, an example might be something like assistive technology transmission, where we send a date range of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st of 2024. And when MIMS processes it, it breaks it out into 12 monthly lines, and it applies the $50 rate to each of those lines so that they can claim, the provider can claim monthly. So in EIS, you just see it as the one. You don't see the 12 lines. In Evergreen, you're actually going to see the 12 lines. So it's going to be more, Evergreen's PA form is going to be more consistent with MIMS form in the way it's displayed to you. Also, like services that we currently authorize in EIS at 6-month increments, and we do what's called rollover or re-up for, we will authorize them in Evergreen for a full year, but there will be 2 lines, one for each 6-month period, and the units will be evenly distributed across those 2 6-month units when we send it to MIMS for processing. So these are at the line level. So let me just, I'll tell you the rest of these columns and then we'll click through to one so you can see. So there's the authorization number, the authorization line number. So again, like seeing any that have multiple lines here really quickly, right here, this one does. And then procedure codes, start date or off start date, end date, the procedure code, if it has modifiers, you'll see them comma separated here. The authorized units, total cost. And then if we were connected to MIMS, which we're not, we would also be getting utilization data back from MIMS. So you'd see the utilization data as well. The organization, their NPI, their location, the NPI +3 for that location, the resource coordinator that approved or denied or canceled or requested clarification, that decision date, the decision itself. If you, again, I did all of them, so I'm seeing approved, and there's, if I page through, there's probably some denied. And then the MIMS outcome. Again, we're in a test environment, so we're not really connected. We did have the vendor mock up some that were accepted in here, but in general, this is not connected and updating. But if it were, it might say accepted or errored if it had been sent through to that status. So let's go like to, let me see if I can find one of those ones that had multiple lines. This one might be a good, I don't know, it doesn't have 2 lines. This one's a good one. All right, so if I click through here, this is the prior authorization form for this test case, Troy Smith. So it brought me to the prior authorization form. If I expand this, it will show me the, again, this is test data too, so keep that in mind. But it will show me the overview for this PA. So this is the PA itself, the number. It was for section 21. The service was crisis assessment. This is the procedure code for that service. This is the date range for this 3-year date range for this prior authorization. And then this was the total authorized units and the total authorized cost. This is inactive because it wasn't submitted through to MIMS for processing. And there was no service description in our service definition, but if there was, it would have showed up here. And then it was last modified on June 2nd of 2023 by our super user account, test account. And then the provider information section is going to give you all the details about the provider. Again, this is a test environment, so this is going to look a little wonky, but the name of this test provider was Waiver Service Provider. Their NPI +3 doesn't have an actual +3, but in the real production system, it will. Provider address, and then provider type is set when my team sets up the provider. We'll set this appropriately for the services that they're going to be providing. So in this case, in this it has all of them, like BI care coordination, DD case management, ORC care coordination, brain injury, and waiver service provider. But in reality, it might not have all of those. And then this is coming from MIMS, the provider specialty. In this environment, it's not. We just loaded some data at random here. But in production, it will show what specialties they're truly actively enrolled in. So 78 is section 29, 79 is section 21, 174 is brain injury waiver. And then there's a couple of other ones applied here that are random. And then it will show you the original request and where that request originated. So most PAs are going to originate off of the PCP. They're going to be auto created off the PCP when it's set to complete. And so that would have a source of person-centered plan. But there is the ability for resource coordinators and care monitors to create PAs right directly from the forms and plans module as a prior authorization form source. And that would only be done in certain circumstances like emergent situations, crisis situations, or a change in waiver services to a PCP that requires a whole new PA to be created but wasn't auto-generated by the PCP. So it will tell you the source. It will tell you whether it's single or expanded, like what I was just describing before. It will tell you the date that it was the request was received. So more relevant for resource coordinators when it came from the PCP, it will tell them what date the PCP set that to complete and auto-generated that. It will tell you the date range for this PA here, frequency, units, duration, total requested units, rate, total requested cost. And then down here is where you're going to see the separate lines. So in this case, this was actually a single crisis assessment is defined as a single. It doesn't actually create two lines, but whoever was testing in here and created this in the PA module created two separate service lines. But it's a good example to at least show you that there are multiple service lines. So each line gets its own PA number or line number. This is the line number that goes in the MIMS transmittal file. This is what MIMS is going to use to send back its response so that we can apply the right information to this line. The date for that line, the date range for that line, the status. So in this case, these are in pending process. Oh, we actually have 3 on here. 2 are in pending processing, meaning they were flagged to go to MIMS, and 1 is in pending review. We must have had the vendor add this for us here because it's not connected. And then you can see the decision on these were approved already. This one was approved, but it was never set to pending processing. So it still says pending review. But then you can click on any of these and you get to the service details for that line. And when you expand that, it will show you, again, the service, procedure code, and modifiers up here, the line number again, just so you know what you've clicked into and some of those details. But then it will show you what was requested. So more relevant if it comes off the PCP, what was requested by the person through their PCP process and what was authorized by the resource coordinator or care monitor. So you can see the difference there. And then you can see the decision, whether or not this went through a supervisor review or not. If it did, it would have a supervisor review date and name. And then if this were connected to MIMS and the response file had come back the next morning, the response would be here. So whether it was accepted or errored, and if it errored, what the ID was for the error and the error description. And then as it's over there and claims are coming in against it in MIMS, each night we're also receiving the MIMS PA pub file, which includes utilization data. And so any of our lines that are in that PA pub that have claimed units will get updated each night with the correct used units, remaining units, and it will apply the new date so that we can see the data that exists in MIMS as well. So Noelle is asking, will the utilization field contain data once Evergreen is live? Yeah. So when we go live, during that deploy weekend, what's going to happen, just so that you guys, probably some good background for you guys to know this as well, but what's going to happen is we have a bunch of PAs in EIS. Those PAs have date ranges that span all the way out into the end of 2024, and maybe even in some cases go into 2025. So before the cutover, we're going to lock EIS into a read-only state. We're then going to end date all of the PAs that exist in EIS, and we're going to flow that over to MIMS. So it ends all of the existing PAs that are in EIS. Then main IT is going to create a spreadsheet of PAs that still had unused units. So it's we've worked with Emily and Betsy to determine how we're making all these rules, but essentially we'll take whatever unused units remain on those PAs and we'll add a row to the spreadsheet for that PA to be created in Evergreen with a start date of the deploy date and then an end date of whatever the original EIS PA end date was, and then we'll apply whatever unused units are there. And during the cutover, FEI, our vendor, will load that PA spreadsheet into Evergreen, and Evergreen will actually generate all of those PAs to send to MIMS the last night of our cutover weekend, so that they'll be processed by MIMS that very next morning. And then MIMS will return the response file that same night as well. And then we'll be able to see all those new PAs generated during cutover weekend, and they'll have Evergreen PA ID so that we can continue to manage them ongoing moving forward. And then any new PAs that get created in Evergreen will get sent over nightly to MIMS. So any of the ones that get created on cutover weekend and any that get created moving forward will start receiving the utilization data. If they're historic EIS migrated PAs, they won't have any of that data. And also, probably really important for this group to know, and I should have mentioned it on this morning's call and I totally forgot, so I'll try to follow up with Emily's team, but the EIS migrated PAs, like the source target EIS migrated PAs that are historic, there will be 2 years worth migrated. I would not rely on that data for any of your reporting. It's not migrating great perfectly. So there's some gaps. There might be some problems with that. So I would certainly not rely on any PA data that's historic that you're seeing in here. We wanted to put it in there because we wanted the resource coordinators to not have to go to EIS to see what was previously authorized and stuff like that. But the total units might be wrong. The total authorized costs might be wrong. There might be some challenges with the providers not getting applied properly, that kind of stuff. So if you need historic EIS PA data, reach out to my team through the odesdata.dhhs and request what you need, and we'll help you get access to that through our EIS data set that we'll have available to us for reporting purposes. So those were the 3 reports that I wanted to show you, and I did want to show you how the PA form itself was structured in here. Again, PAs are considered forms and plans in Evergreen, so they are, you would navigate under the context of a person record, go to forms and plans. That will take you to the all forms list page. You can see prior authorizations from this all forms list page. Your role has the ability to view like basically everything. So you can see all of these forms and you can sort by all these columns, again, search in here, but you can also use this filter icon on your all forms list page to navigate to custom list pages. That makes it a little bit easier to find things. And especially if you want to look at prior authorizations, you should definitely use the prior authorizations custom list page because that will give you additional columns of data that don't exist on the all forms list page. It would make it a little bit easier for you to search and find what you're looking for. So your search bar over here will search like PA number, service name, proc code, so you can search on those things. Whereas at the all forms list page, it doesn't display those data points and you can't search on them. So I highly recommend using the custom list pages. You guys got to see my reminder to eat. I forgot that I had that on there. So yeah, highly recommend when you're looking at forms under the context of a person using the custom list page filters over here. But you literally can look at any of these types of forms that might have been filled out. So level of care assessments, comprehensive assessments, IEA forms, app recon packets, person-centered plans, employment data, discharge, behavior management plans, HHPS rights modification addendums, prior authorizations, DD family billing support forms, reportable events, guardianship, conservatorship plans, and the list goes on. So what else did I want to, oh, actually, let me go to Leslie Test and just see if there were any other, this wasn't the person record that I was planning on showing you the all forms list page on. Let me just see if there's any other DD eligibility. I don't think that was showing up. You get to see those too. Yeah, DD eligibility, case management acceptance, crisis forms, different crisis forms that might be under that person's record. So lots of different forms that you can view. You also have the ability to create reportable events if you need to, and missing person forms. So from your all forms list page, or from within the context of a custom list page. So let me see, reportable events. Either place, you'll have this plus new form button. You can click on that. It opens up the create form modal. And then you simply just search for the form. So if you're doing a reportable event, it's under incident reporting category and reportable event. This is our test environment again. So if you get in here, there are some forms listed that are not truly forms in production. So person forms test 2022, that's not going to be in production. Sorry for the confusion there. Our test environment has some wonky stuff, but a lot of these are true forms. So your incident reporting reportable event, all you do is you select that, you hit next. Asks you, are you sure you want to create this? You say, yep. And then it creates the form for you. I'm not going to go through this form. I did do a webinar on this, and there has been trainings on this. So you can definitely watch those recordings if you didn't get a chance to participate in those. But essentially, you can expand all of the sections and then just start editing. You can open up your quick scroll. It will show you all the sections, and then you can just hover, click edit, and start populating if you need to create a reportable event form. Similarly, missing person will work the exact same way. The difference is that you're going to find that one under the category of guardianship conservatorship, which is a little confusing because I think these might be filled out for other than guardianship conservatorship, but I don't think we knew that when we first created it. And then the lost or missing person form. And then again, you just create next. It asks you if you really want to create it. You say yes, and then you can do all the same things, toggle to see all of your sections, expand all, and then just, this one displays a lot of information. This is a good example actually of information that gets displayed from the person record for you. So all of this data just automatically populated from my person record. So you can see it shows me that Leslie Test has private guardianship, and her mother Test, that's the name of the private guardian, is her biological mother, that's all her guardian details. And you can see that her date of birth is 3/1/1995. You can see that she lives alone at a private residence, and this is her address, that she has a diagnosis of whatever that is. She has some medications that she takes, and then you can get down here and start populating the form. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, give the slides back to Miranda, the screen share back to Miranda. And we'll talk a little bit about next steps. So we are still working with our vendor to determine the exact release 3 deploy date. However, we do hope to be making an announcement about that really soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that email announcement. In the meantime, the deploy is going to be right around the corner. So we do want you to continue to prepare for the upcoming deploy. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I don't believe that this group has been given access to play around in any environment yet. So I will work with Nancy and Udaya to get you guys set up in the test environment, which I just demoed from. Just again, keeping in mind all those things about how it's got a lot of access that you might not have in production. Things are kind of wonky. We're not connected to the MIM system, so a lot of the reports aren't going to have data showing up, and it's just only as good as the test data that's in there. And then also you can go out to our website, maine.gov/DHHS/EIS/Evergreen, and you can listen to all of the recorded webinars. There was one on reportable events if you're interested in that. There was one on the PCP to PA process if you're interested in that. Also, all the training sessions that have occurred to date, up to today, are posted out there as well. So you can listen to any of the recordings that are posted out there that you might be interested in. You can also read the FAQs that are out there. We are still working to update the FAQs a little bit more. So hopefully getting that updated again in the nearest future. Your team doesn't really conduct a lot of business in EIS, but if you have created any reportable events or you have anything that out in EIS that might be in a not completed state, you can be continuing to work to complete that stuff in EIS prior to the deploy. And if you haven't already signed up for and are interested in participating in one of the FBI-led Q&A sessions, there are 4. The dates are posted out on the project website as well under the training page. They're like February 5th, 7th, 9th, and 12th, I think, or something like that. And they are 1-hour sessions where truly we're just letting people come after you've completed your training sessions and you've been able to play around in a test or a training environment and ask whatever questions you might have. And I'm going to try to help field whatever questions come in during those sessions. So there are 1-hour sessions. You can sign up for one or all, whatever you want, or none. If you don't want to, you don't have to. We'll record all of those and post those as well. And as always, if you have any questions, feedback, anything that you think of, you can send that to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. That's the project email address. Nancy Kitchen is helping me monitor that because I'm like a one-arm paper hanger right now. But we will try to respond to those questions that come in there. Next slide, please, Miranda. So that concludes the presentation. We did great. This was perfect timing. Great questions that you guys asked. I was able to respond to the questions that were in the Q&A as we went along. So if you guys, again, think of any other questions after we adjourn here today or after you get access to the environment, you can definitely submit questions to that email address and we'll respond to those just as quickly as we can. And this has been recorded and we will post this recording as well. So you can refer back to it if you need to, and the slides, even though there wasn't very many, will also be posted out on the website. Probably the recording and the slides won't get posted until the end of this week or the beginning of next week, but we'll definitely get them posted out there just as soon as we can. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope this was helpful, and hopefully we can get you into the test environment in the next week or so here, and that will help you familiarize yourself even more. And I'm sure you'll come up with more questions for me once you have that opportunity. Everybody have a great day.